Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the World Championships Men's Time Trial Recap. A really exciting race. Like these long TTs, they got to keep doing them. I think they're way more exciting. The tension, you just get extra tension throughout the race, particularly when it's close like this. From Stirling to Stirling, they do a loop back. They finish up Stirling Castle, which is 800 meters, 6% pave, 12% sections. It's all out on A roads. Before with some little rises, but some of them, like they were powering out over them, not even in the extensions, or at least Tarling was. So an interesting course. The weather conditions, I don't know exactly, but it looked pretty stable for the main contenders. There was no downpour on one and dry roads for the other. So a fairly fair course, I think.
I think so as well. There were moments when we saw riders, they've got these disc wheels in the back of their bike, and we did see on the straight sections in a certain spot, the earlier parts of the time trial, that some riders really had to hold their bike because the wind was hitting their disc wheel at the back, basically. So that's a one thing that mattered. I don't know how that evolved throughout the time trial, though, but if I had to guess, I don't think there was a major difference in that throughout the entire parkour. So I reckon most of the riders had similar conditions, and going into this time trial, to be honest, I didn't really feel like I had a clear view of who was going to take the reins here, because we heard people talk about a slow type of parkour the last few days, and then we also thought about, okay, normally this type of profile really fits the likes of a Remco, the likes of a Wout van Aert, even a Ganna could do well, but those hills might be worse for him. So we had a lot of opinions on that, and you came out with Josh Stirling. What was the reason that you selected Josh Stirling as your pick?
Because I like him. That's mainly it.
Honest?
Yeah. Oh no, but also because I saw just familiarity. Like in other sports, there is a real home ground advantage. And what does that mean? And why does it exist? It's not huge, but teams win more at home. Maybe it's familiarity. It's less travel. It's motivation. And certainly, I knew for sure. He would have targeted this and prepared specifically for this event.
Yeah.
Whereas a Wout van Aert, Tour de France, just had a kid. He's not prepared specifically for the last 2 months for this event. Remco himself, he's got the Vuelta afterwards. Stefan Kung just did the Tour, didn't impress me. So it was basically, I think he's a huge challenge. I think this guy could be the next Cancellara.
Yeah.
And I know Cancellara today wouldn't win all the races Cancellara won back in the day. That's a separate discussion because people like Pogacar exist now. But I think Tarling could be the next Cancellara, and so no time like the present to show that. That was my rationale for thinking he'd do well as the question marks over Kung on a 1 hour TT, Van Aert's prep, Remco looked a bit sus in the road race, Ganna, as we discussed before, he didn't do as well despite winning the individual pursuit gold. He only beat Bigham by 500ths. But you could look at it the other way, like we said in the preview, which means he's preparing for the road race of a 1 hour effort versus a 4-minute effort, completely different energy systems. And so it's a good thing he wasn't too dominant in the IP. And the odds reflected that, with Remco the narrow favourite, Van Aert second favourite, then I think Ganna Kung much of a muchness, Tarling was a bit longer, I think.
I think so as well. Now, because this is a longer time trial, we had some riders like Van Aert that went earlier. Tarling, that went earlier than the other riders. It's about, I don't know what the difference was, but about half an hour.
Yeah.
The difference between their starts is how I would say it was. That didn't necessarily influence the race too much from how I viewed it, but it did give an odd dynamic, as in we had our first reference times really when Tarling and Wout van Aert came across the T1 section. And before usually we go to the results straight away, but I do want to talk about the story here for a second. We saw Tarling going over the line, unsurprisingly taking T1, because before him, the likes of an Asgreen and so forth had passed the Cataneo, but a Tarling would have been a name where you at least would have said he would have taken T1 at that point in the race.
Yeah.
Then Wout van Aert crossed the first one, and I swear he was he like 30 seconds behind already?
30 seconds, yeah. And that's, there's no other way to look at it, that's not going to win you the race, because 30 seconds there, unless Tarling went out and completely blew up and he actually was quicker than Ganna and Remco, it looked like there's no way Van Aert's winning this race. And that was confirmed when Ganna and Remco went through T1, and they at T1 were first and second. Ganna 4 seconds ahead of Remco, 6 seconds ahead of Tarling, 2 seconds. Sorry, yeah, Evenepoel only 2 seconds ahead of Tarling, which means that that's the pace to win the race. And 30 seconds is not, we saw in Leuven, within 10, 12, 15 seconds, that's a pacing plan where maybe you can make that back up. And I know it's a long TT, anything can happen, but yeah, not happening. And T2, the gap for it actually switched around with Remco, and there's a long time, 25 minutes between T1 and T2. Remco, he gained, I got to do math, so it's hard for me, as you know, 4 plus 12. Remco gained 16 seconds on Ganna between T1 and T2. Now 12 seconds ahead of Ganna, and they both took more time on Tarling, I believe. Yes. Remco was 25 seconds ahead of Tarling. So it was clear that Tarling probably also wasn't winning the race, because you would say the course was marginally slower with more hills at the back end. And so that's all advantage Evenepoel with his lighter frame compared to Tarling and Ganna. And it was really between those three, Benji. Like Van Aert at T2 was a minute and 26 seconds. So he's just gone. And not just from the podium or winning. He's gone from the podium. Like he's nowhere near Tarling and not even going to come fourth. So yeah, it was really exciting. And we narrowed in between around T3 or that region. We see Ganna catching up to Pogacar, and he gets a nice toe in, which is perfectly fine.
Mate,
you're allowed to do that.
And afterwards, Pogacar, I feel like he was just trolling. He was trying to pass Ganna again for memes on the left side, and then he just blew up. Yeah,
you got to get out of his wheel to pass him.
He tried. Okay, he tried. It was funny for a second, but there was this moment during the race, and I don't know how you perceived that moment, but I think it was between T2 and T3 where Remco Evenepoel was basically having his hand on his right side and pushing down like calma, calma kind of behavior towards the team car. Is that, you reckon, because they're shouting too much, or because he thought he was going too fast and said, I need to go a bit slower?
No. He's talking to the car. He's talking to the car 100%.
I think so.
If he was just talking to him, he wouldn't do that. He got out of aero position to tell them to shut the fuck up. And it's not his... I don't know if it's... because he just put that YouTube video up. And, listen, Remco, welcome to the big leagues, my man. You might be good at cycling, but welcome to the big leagues. There's some bigger fish here in the media space. Anyway, it was a great video. I watched it last night. And I don't know if Kern... What's his name? Pilgrim? Is he in the Belgian car or not allowed?
I think he's there because Mathieu Haber is there for Wout van Aert in the car, and I recall there being a trainer also for Remco, so I'm guessing it's Koen Pelgrim and not the likes of Klaas Lodewijk, because Pelgrim was also in that YouTube video with Remco.
Is he Belgian?
Doing his TT stuff. Yes.
Okay.
Well, but the other guys as well, so I don't know what that means.
Luke is saying he's Dutch, Benji, so are you doing
is he Dutch?
Are you doing a Danny Van Poppel?
I'm not okay with that. Is he actually Dutch?
I didn't know.
Oh my god!
Look at how the turns have tabled. Anyway, whoever was in the car was getting told to be quiet because they were obviously doing a Matteo in his ear, and Remco said, "Calm, I got it under control." He did the Ronaldo and LeBron, "Calm down," and that was very exciting. You've never seen that in a time trial before. Anyway, T3. Ganna's taken some time back on Remco Evenepoel. Not much. 2 seconds or so. It could have been the draft of Poggy that was that 2 seconds. But it means this isn't a done deal at all. And then it's all going to be who has the legs for the final Stirling Castle. Tarling's gone into the hot seat. He set a time of 56.07, averaging 51 kph. Smoked everyone behind him. He puts 49 seconds into Van Aert. He's got at least third locked up.
Yeah.
And now second and first. Ganna goes on Stirling Castle. Does a pretty... He does it much... Well, not much. He does it quicker than Tarling. A really good time. He beats him by over 30 seconds. And then it's all up to Remco Evenepoel. We eventually see him. I will say... We'll get into the... Yeah. And Remco Evenepoel rides up the cobbles or pave or whatever you want to call them to win his first ITT World Championships with a time of 55.19, 12 seconds ahead of Ganna in second, and like 45 seconds ahead of Tarling in third, nearly averaging 52 kph and consistent splits. He was, he obviously paced it brilliantly, Remco. And a masterclass performance, a deserved winner, and a big bounce back from the road race disappointment last weekend, Benji.
Yes, certainly. I do want to correct here for a second. You mentioned they were cobbles on the last hill. They're imposters, okay? The true cobbles lie in Belgium. The Romans didn't build them. The Flemish people built them.
How do you know the Romans didn't build them? You heard of
because
Hadrian's
the Belgians
Wall,
did.
Actually, it's
the
Hadrian's
Belgians
Wall. Who
built
built
them.
that?
I don't fucking know, man. It's probably the Romans that built it here, but
Yeah, the Romans built it.
of course they built it, but for the sakes of this argument, they are not. But anyway, Remco Evenepoel on those cobbles, he didn't have the fastest time on the last segment, which I found pretty odd. I was like, he's going really fast up this hill.
And
It's
not much quicker than Ghana.
the other Belgian, that had
I
the
know.
fastest time on the last segment. What does that mean for Van Aert, you think?
Van Aert was 12th at T1. 12th. And then progressively at T2, 8th, T3, 6th. T1 to T3, Van Aert was 6th. And then, yeah, first, not by March, by like 500, by half a second ahead of Remco, but still first on T3 to the finish, which isn't just the climb, by the way. That's also like some flat before the climb. Yeah, did he leave something in the tank? I mean, you can say he messed up his pacing, but
Yeah.
he lost by a minute 37. That's not pacing.
I think he messed up his pacing a little bit, but I also think it wouldn't have mattered for
Yeah, that's
the
20
victory.
seconds, 30 seconds.
Would it have changed anything when it comes to the overall results? I think he might. He could have come close to fourth or something, but podium was out of the question regardless of what was happening. He just wasn't good enough today. And McNulty getting fourth is quite surprising as well, but we got to focus on the winner for a second here. And Remco Evenepoel, the youngest winner of ITT World Championships ever, the first Belgian ever to win the World Championships ITT, 2 World Champion jerseys in a row, as in road race last year, ITT this year. He focused on the ITT way more than the road race this time around because he really wanted to win the ITT this time around. He delivers that. But do you reckon this great victory at the ITT displays anything towards the Vuelta?
For Remco,
Yeah?
not really. I don't know. Like he said in that video, he says he looks like a bodybuilder on the TT bike. Does that mean he thinks he has weight to lose? Look pretty. I don't know. Like he's definitely in good shape. He's definitely his threshold power must to beat this. Let's clarify. This was a flat course. This is not a hilly. This is not a hilly course. Yeah, they finished on a hill, but this is a flat course and less hilly than Harrogate. And he just beat Ghana on this. And Ghana, I think, did a good time. And Tarling, I think, is that Tarling result in 5 years, you'll be like, that wasn't an upset. It may look like an upset today, but in 5 years, it won't look like an upset. So I think Remco must be pushing huge numbies. And so, yeah, he obviously seems to be reasonably on track for the Vuelta because they don't race the Vuelta. Well, GC's not decided on a criterium course like the World Champs Road Race. But yeah, Ghana, very close. And yeah, a great performance from him too, a deserved second. And Tarling, as I said, 48 seconds behind. His first medal, 19 years old. Incredible performance. And McNulty, I'll read out the top 10. McNulty fourth, 127, 10 seconds ahead of Van Aert in fifth. Oliveira, 15 seconds behind Van Aert in sixth. He always top 10s World Championships. The 34-year-old Portuguese domestique at Movistar. I think he's really good, by the way, Oliveira. I really think like Ineos, or I'd be surprised. He'd probably re-sign at Movistar. I know he's 34, but Erviti was a good rider nearly until he's 41 years old.
Isn't he what Castroviejo was before Ineos made him a climber?
Yes, he's a little bit bigger, but he's not as big as Erviti, and he can still climb well. So I think he's a really good rider, and but Movistar they know that they'll probably extend him because he does literally all the hard work for them. Dennis in seventh, he would have come sixth, but he had a mechanical, maybe even fifth, but he had a mechanical and had to change bike on the last climb. Wasn't too happy at the finish. Catania 8th on 157, Bjerg 9th on 159, Geraint Thomas actually 10th, 1 second ahead of Vos. The gap, Benji, between 6th and 11th is 13 seconds in a 1 hour TT.
Yeah.
6th and 11th. It's really tight gaps there. And then, Evenepoel, Ghana were their own tier. Tarling was his own tier. And then, yeah, it's interesting how close people can be over such a long TT.
Exactly. Do you reckon that you can judge Stirling on the fact that when we looked at Stirling's time trial, halfway through, once he was reaching T3, I started to think, okay, he's not going to win here because he was losing time on other people. I think he lost 4 seconds or 5 seconds to Dennis at T3 compared to his previous time check. And then he lost like 5 to 6 seconds or something to Oliveira at the last time check. So that to me gave the idea that, okay, he's not going to win this time trial because someone else will probably be more consistent when it comes to their pacing plan towards the finish line. And both Ganna and Evenepoel were that, basically. But I'm not sure that's an indicator that Stirling's not good at long time trials. I think that he's still good at long time trials and maybe he just went a slight bit too hard at the start. And he's 19, eh?
Yeah.
We can't forget that. Last year, this dude was riding the junior time trial championships and won the damn thing. Now he's riding the elite one and getting third the first time around. When is the last time we've seen something like that? I think the closest thing to that was Evenepoel showing up
Remco,
was it his first year where he got second behind Dennis?
Yeah, so Remco and Harrogate, was it that? Well, that was when he came third, right? And he was, how old was he there? That was in 2019. So he came second when he was 19 in 2019. So we've actually seen someone do better than Stirling, and his name was Remco Evenepoel. Was that his Neo Pro year?
I think so.
It was, yeah. And he just come from club level. In 2018, he did the junior. So yeah, it's actually, unfortunately for Stirling, we've seen something very recently like this, but it's good company to be in, Remco Evenepoel. It means you're probably a pretty good rider, and I really think he will be a good rider, more than a good rider. But, well, Van Aert, Benji, what do you think went wrong? No legs? Is it what we've mentioned before about maybe the Jumbo setup on the flat over 50 k's an hour isn't as fast as it maybe was compared to the competition?
I don't know, man. I genuinely don't know. We've spoken about the Jumbo TT setup so much this year, and I don't really know what to think anymore because, like, Roglic's time trial was, like, in the Giro, the big one, the Montelusari one. That's not based on TT setup necessarily when it comes to the aerodynamics of the thing. His second T, was it his second TT? The TT that he had before that?
One.
That was also a pretty good one. That was a flatter one. And there he lost some time initially, but towards the end he actually got closer again. But then we get Vingegaard in the Tour de France, which is a hilly time trial. Côte de Montmorency was uphill and so forth, but a serious portion of that stage was still aerodynamic influenced, as in there was a flat portion. The last portion of the uphill was not super steep, so aerodynamics matter there. So when we take a look at this race, for example, aero matters. Let's be honest about it. Aero matters. It's said to be slow asphalt. People said that in the run-in of this week. In my head, that says, okay, that favors a Wout van Aert over a Remco then, because if it's slow asphalt, then muscles, watts, matters more than the CDA of a rider, but that really didn't come true today either. So I don't know what to think anymore of Van Aert's time trial.
It wasn't a good one, that's for sure. I mean, he was, odds on to podium or probably better than that, and he got beaten by McNulty. McNulty, by the way, like, he has pedigree in the time trial in the juniors and maybe U23, so it's not like McNulty's just come out of nowhere. I mean, when McNulty has the watts, he can do, he can fly. But yeah, I think it was a really exciting TT. Kung, like, he was really disappointing. He had a shocker, frankly. Like, where did he come? 12th, 217 down behind Foss. That's a really, that's not the performance he would have hoped for. That's really all I can pick out of it. I wasn't expecting Pogacar to do too well. Like, the poor guy was very, very tired after the road race, and he did the Tour de France as well, obviously. So, yeah, it's the coverage, I will say, been a little bit disappointing. Like, not showing the favourites on course, not showing, like, as a minimum, you shouldn't miss Evenepoel or Ganna's, any of their intermediate time checks. You just can't miss them. That's what people are watching for. So maybe a little bit to improve, a fair bit to improve on there, frankly. Wasn't the best production of TTs across the week that I've seen. But yeah, anything else from this World Champs, Benji? I mean, Remco, it's just, he's just so good. Like, he is.
Yeah, he is. I think it's very nice to see Stirling finish close. I love seeing that because I love seeing youngsters perform at a high level. He's not winning necessarily, but that isn't necessary to have a wonderful performance. And in the coming years, he'll only step up from this spot. I'm curious to see what he can do in a cobble race, flat cobble race, a Roubaix of the world, and so forth. I think he's around 80 kilos on the bike, so that seems like the weight you want to be when it comes to the likes of Roubaix. But it's the same Ghana question, eh? Ghana at Roubaix was very interesting. He was strong in Roubaix, but he had 17 punctures along the way. And I believe that a Stirling can also compete in a Roubaix in the future, but that's something we'll need to see on the road. That's something we'll need to see evolve. I think we can conclude that Tobias Vos was basically a bit of a one-hit thing last year, which
does
not
Rod
terrible.
Illingworth know that?
If I'm a one-hit wonder, I'll gladly have it be the World Championships.
Yeah, I mean, true. And then you get a big contract from, the strong rumor is that he's going to Ineos, I believe.
Yeah,
so,
rumor 2 million.
No, that's what Haugland said that the agent offered to X. I don't reckon.
Okay.
So, but it's ballpark, they're the numbers we're talking. So, yeah, I would still take, neither of us have won a World Championships, but yeah, not the performance he hoped for. Oscar Chamberlain won the men's junior ITT, so Australia won both junior time trials. Thanks very much for coming, beating Ben Wiggins, Bradley Wiggins' son, who, might be, because Ineos don't have a development team, yep. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on Ineos next year, a la Michael Leonard, because they have like 15 riders on the contract. And I think tying a bow on the TT, Benji, that does segue us nicely into the discussion of Remco. And why is this relevant to the TT? Well, it's because on Spanish coverage, apparently Alberto Contador, and I really think this is very, very like take with a grain of salt type stuff. Yeah. I really do think that. But he basically said Remco to Ineos is a done deal. And he's also bringing riders with him. And it's imminent or something. I don't know where's his like. Does Contador have a line to Brailsford and Ellingworth? Where's the relationship there?
I don't know, but we need to add more context here for people that haven't been following the whole debacle. Let's call it that. To be honest, that has been happening between the Ineos rumors, Remco Evenepoel, Quickstep, Patrick Lefevere, Remco Evenepoel's dad, who's basically his manager. That's been an entire mess for the last, I'd say, year already, if not a bit longer than a year, because I swear last year we had a segment on the podcast talking about Ineos and Remco rumors at some point in the year, but we've basically evolved here because we've had this drama in the media between Remco Evenepoel's dad and Patrick Lefevere. Basically, how can we contextualize this well? What was the initial spark that set it off, you think?
Evenepoel's father, he basically just the 2 days or the day before the road race started talking crazy, like nonsense, and then saying, oh, he might not be on Quickstep next year. We're looking at all options. And it clearly wasn't well received by Lefevre, who was like, what the hell? And said, if you leave breaking your contract, we'll sue you, which is what I would have said, and he's entitled to do. And then Remco said, on the morning of the road race, both of them should basically stop talking. And I think that suggests to me that Remco didn't tell his dad to start leaking that. Why would he? 2 days before his A-target one-day race of the year, the World Champs Road Race, have all that drama. What rider wants that? So, not a good look from Patrick Evenepoel at all. And then it has gone quiet since Remco told him to be quiet, right? From those two.
I think so as well. Now, to give more context, Remco's contract is rumored to not be the greatest contract in cycling, and we've basically already said that on the podcast as well, that we didn't expect that to be the best contract in cycling based on the way people are talking about it. But when it comes to Quickstep sponsoring, apparently according to Patrick Lefevre, it's an obvious thing that this is the case, sponsors signed up to support Quickstep because Remco's part of the team. Because they've got someone like Remco that could in the future end up winning a Grand Tour. So not only is Remco leaving results falling out, it's also sponsors potentially dropping out of the team and potentially the future of the team being hindered as a consequence. So that is something that is existent. Now, the way that Patrick Evenepoel is talking about it in the press, and the way Patrick Lefevre is talking about it in the press, the fact that he says, "Oh, I will sue you," and so forth, stuff like that, that suggests to me that this entire storyline feels like the contract between Quickstep and Remco feels like it can't be broken easily. And we had a rumor last year in Belgian media that the bonuses or something weren't paid out for Remco, and then a bit later that was resolved according to another article a bit later in the year, towards the end of the year. So in time it was paid. It's later than probably expected, but it was paid in time, so that if that's the case, that doesn't hinder the contract. And if you're Remco in that situation, then you can either choose to make Patrick Lefevre, all these Patricks, man. And you're Patrick as well, my friend.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, stop it. Stop calling your kids Patrick. But if you're Remco in that situation, you either have a watertight contract and then you can't do anything about it, or you break your watertight contract, if that's a watertight contract, and then you get sued into oblivion. Or the other option is, and I feel like that's what Patrick Evenepoel's been trying in the media, based on how I view it, is trying to make the relationship sour so that Patrick Lefevre doesn't enjoy it anymore and feels like mutually agreeing to stop the contract, but that's never going to happen. Like, why would Lefevre do that at any point? So, sorry for the rant.
But I don't get it right. I think Remco is paid, it must be paid reasonably well. Like, it might not be, but you also have to look at the context in which he was signed up to that contract, which, by the way, Patrick Evenepoel was the agent who obviously recommended that contract, by the way. So not a lot of self-reflection clearly happening. Remco could have been terrible. I don't know when exactly the extension was signed, but he just had the crash in Lombardia, the Giro 21 disappointment. So Lefevre was also taking a calculated risk too, like he did with Jakobsen, by the way, after his Bologna crash. So he could have been saddled with the 5-year contract of somebody with a severe injury. Didn't happen. Remco's the world champ, but that's why it looks so bad now. And it also doesn't seem to be just money. Evenepoel said, his father, Patrick Evenepoel, said, the team needs to step up 3 or 4 things. They need more domestiques this, more domestiques that. And I was trying to figure out, like, what does he mean? Because, like, he just won the world champs on the ITT. Mm-hmm. Clearly the TT setup they got, and the coaching support and whatever aerodynamicists they got at Quickstep, they got him going fast on the TT bike. The climbing, like, I think he just won the Vuelta with like 3 guys crashing out last year against Roglic. Is the team really that bad?
I disagree with the take that the Vuelta shows that the team is good enough to win the Tour de France necessarily, but on the opposite end of that, you don't necessarily need a Jumbo-level team to win the Tour de France. A lot of people then show towards the Tour de France of 2020, where Pogacar won basically with Jumbo as his team, because he benefited from the tactics Jumbo was doing. So I'm of the opinion that you do need a decent team to do a Grand Tour, but it's going to be hard to have a Kuss-like rider in the first place. Now, there's rumors when it comes to Landa. There's rumors when it comes to George Bennett. I don't really see it with George Bennett unless he really steps up. Landa, I'm on the edge of. I don't know which Landa you're going to get. If you get the Landa that is able to fight for top 5s in GCs, but as your domestique, then he's going to be useful for you. So that's going to be useful. And the Landa that was at Sky, I'm not sure if that really matters anymore, but it does show that he can fold into a domestique role when he needs to back in the day. But I'm also of the opinion, back to your take there for a second, you said, okay, the team should step up. That's what Patrick Evenepoel said and so forth in certain areas. I think the media side is also an area where they could step up. As in, I think Philo is leaving, the press officer, and I feel like in the Giro, whatever happened with Cole, we were complaining about it, like the way they were handling it, because it was actively creating criticism towards Remco that he didn't need at that moment. The team
doctor was giving in-person interviews that were contradicting the official press releases.
So that's something they need to get better at. They need to be better at making sure Remco doesn't get scolded every second of his life, because that must also put pressure on him. But when it comes to improving the climbing team...
But is that reasonable?
Yeah, but
he hasn't even gone to the Tour. He has not even gone to the Tour de France yet. He has never done a World Tour stage race, even in France. How can you say, if you're them, Lefebvre, why don't you have Sepp Kuss, Nathan Van Hooydonk, Christophe Laporte level rider? It's a process. I think it's unreasonable to say they won a Grand. He could have won. He's looking good to win the Giro. Like, yeah, there's things to improve, but man, they're acting like the team is complete dog shit, and I think that is not the case at all.
I agree in some shape or form. I do believe in the Giro that some riders were weaker than we expected beforehand. I think Hirt hasn't been up to standards, but they did sign Hirt for Remco.
Yeah.
They did end up signing Van Wilder from DSM. I think that's also as a part of the process when it comes to Remco, Vervaeke before. So they've made signings, but then they've also spent money on a Melier here and there, which now that Jakobsen's gone, that's fine. Jakobsen being replaced by the officially confirmed Lamperti, young sprinter American, also classics kind of rider maybe.
Cost saving there.
Exactly, a lot of cost savings. So that money can go towards the likes of Orlando if that is indeed happening, stuff like that. So I don't know. I have no confidence in this Contador rumor at all. I don't really care what he's saying. I don't trust him.
Well, that pivots then to where's this rumor? So I just said the Quick-Step team, for all intents and purposes, is fine now. There's been flirting and a lot of flirting with Ineos, not really through Remco at all, but you know, he's very friendly with Geraint Thomas. When Geraint Thomas did his podcast with his agent, McQuaid asked, gee, how much would you, buy out, if you were Sir Jim Ratcliffe, a very pointed question, how much would you buy out Remco for? And so it's clearly something not just being discussed privately, they literally discussed it publicly. And then in the recent What's Occurring Before the Worlds that Remco was on with Thomas and Rowe, they joked after he left the call, like, we'll see him on Ineos next year or something. So that's them just joking, but these jokes have been going on for a long time, and Brailsford was asked about it. And it's clear that, like, Evenepoel's father must think Ineos is a better place for him to win the Tour de France or perform at the Tour de France. I really don't see a big difference between the two teams supporting
the riders,
Remco.
Or
riders.
Also the staff.
Both. Yeah, like people and everyone, I said that on Twitter and people said, you're crazy, but we are not living in 2015 Sky, 2016 Sky Day. We are not living there. Like, we're not. And so, Aronsman, does he want to be Remco's domestique? May probably do it, but, does G want to do it? I don't know. So I think he's not going to go to Ineos and just win the Tour because Ineos is so much better than Quick-Step. I think that's actually a very grass is greener look from if you think that, but also maybe he just wants to leverage it up to get a pay rise. Maybe this is all noise to just get a pay rise.
Potentially. I do feel like the Ineos comparison was more the case 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago when it started, or a year ago when it started. But at this point, we're getting to the point where it's closer than ever because Ineos is going downhill while...
Gegenhardt just announced he was leaving.
For example, even though I'm not sure he would have fit in the team for support of Remco anyway, I don't think Hart would have done that in the first place.
Sivakov gone.
Yeah, Sivakov leaving, and we don't know the situation about Carlos Rodriguez yet. I don't know. The thing with Ineos as well is I do think they would handle the press side of things better.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I don't think Patrick Evenepoel would be as loud as he is in the media if he was a manager with Ineos by his side. Then again, he might be happier with the money at that point, but it's all a situation. In general, I just have this opinion. I feel like a lot of talk is happening above Remco between Patrick Evenepoel and Patrick Lefevere. And I feel like Remco just wants to focus on the races, and this is hindering him from doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really disappointing to see that bickering before one of his A targets of the year is really disappointing, and
he won it anyway.
They're not doing him any favors. Like, imagine mentally it'd be tough dealing with that before the road race. So, but yeah, there's also rumors that maybe Contador's right. There's also rumors there's a merger between the two teams. Both of them have like 15 riders under contract for next year announced. And so you could merge the two teams.
Mate, then the rumor of Remco bringing a few riders means that he's bringing the entire team.
Well, it's not many people.
That's true.
It's not many people under contract at Quick-Step next year, nor Ineos announced. So That's theoretic. I don't know if that's actually possible. I think it is. Didn't Intermarché merge? Did Israel merge Katusha?
I don't know, but it is physically possible to do that. But then one of the teams will not own the UCI license of the team, or one of the. Then it's either Buckler or Radcliffe that would be owning the UCI license.
Don't you think they'd be okay with that?
With one of them owning it and the other one not owning it? I don't know.
They'd be a minority
Ownership
owner.
is a lot for rich people.
They'd be a minority owner.
Yeah. If you're a rich guy, I want to own all of it.
Yeah, but in this world, Remco is not winning the Tour because we need to go to Ineos, and Remco, this is like the way of everyone gets made happy. Lefebvre and Buckler get paid out for their license. Quickstep comes across those 15 riders. Ratcliffe's the majority owner of the new Ineos, which has those riders across.
But if you do merge like that, doesn't your contract of Remco stay the same? Or will that be nullified in the same way that
no, I think all the contracts
tried to leave Roompot, or what? No, not Roompot. The other one, Paul Sausen.
Willems, Krell, and Salza, Ball, and Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. Yeah.
I think that means, yes, all the riders can maybe break their contracts. I don't know. That would be I'd love to be the M&A lawyer on that one. If you need one, if you need somebody. My hourly rate is high. Anyway, it's just been a lot of rumors. Do you think this, what puts you on the spot, Benji? What do you think happens?
I think he stays.
Does it depend on the Vuelta?
No, I think he stays at Quickstep.
I agree. I think he stays at Quickstep and the team stays exactly the same for 24.
Well, I think they're building on the team, as in the rumors. If the rumors come true,
with Lando. But I mean, like, no new sponsors, no merging. I think Quickstep with Remco, with his support staff, with maybe Lando in, and I think this is a lot of talk for nothing happening.
I think so as well.
Anyway, we'll see him in those ITT bands at the Vuelta. That's something to look forward to. But yeah, I don't know if we'd really covered it off, but
when is the ITT? Is it the start or?
No, it's a team time trial in Barcelona, so maybe he's in the
red jersey already.
By then, possible. Is he in? Yeah, so that's been happening. A lot of rumors. Let us know what you think. Where should Remco land? Will he stay at Quickstep? Because, yeah, I think we're going to see some more sniping before and some bickering in the press before the day is done.
Tituma team. As a YouTuber, you have to join, eh?
What do you mean?
As a YouTuber, Remco now has to join to the Tituma cycling team.
He could. I mean, have they got the money for him?
I don't know. No clue. They're going to pro tour, so I don't know.
Maybe he joins Israel with the Chris Froome YouTuber. He won Tour de France. That's the other rumor. Anyway, thanks for listening as always to the World Champs. We'll have the women's road race preview recording tomorrow morning, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you then. Ciao.